Welcome to the Girl Means Business podcast. I'm Kendra Swalls, a former teacher turned entrepreneur and mom of two. As women, we are so much more than just one thing. We're wives, moms, entrepreneurs, side hustlers, and dreamers with goals and ambition. On this podcast, we'll talk about everything from juggling family, work, and fun to making your dreams a reality through simple, effective marketing strategies, all designed specifically for the busy mom who doesn't have a lot of extra time. So whether you're just getting started or already have an established business, there's something here for you. If you're ready to take on the challenge of becoming your own boss and making your dreams a reality, then let's get started because this girl means business. Hey friend, and welcome to episode 208 of the Girl Means Business podcast. I'm really excited this week for a couple reasons. One, this episode's going to be amazing, always, but also it's the first week of spring, and I love spring. I love the cool mornings and the warm afternoons and the sunshine, and everything starts turning green again. It's also softball season, and I love softball season when my girls are playing softball and I get to go hang out at the softball fields in the evenings. There's just something really fun and magical about it. It's a great time of year, and so welcome to spring, everybody. Okay, now let's talk about the awesome episode we're going to have today. I told y'all earlier in the year that I wanted to change things up here on the podcast, and I wanted to become very particular about who I was bringing on as a guest. So I wasn't just having any Joe Schmo off the street come in and share their quote-unquote expertise. I've had some incredible guests on this show, but I really did want to take it back to what I know you, the listener, are really excited about, which is quick bites of information. So the majority of our episodes are those quick bites of information. However, when I do bring a guest on, I want it to be someone that's a really high caliber, really knows their stuff, and is going to be really valuable to you as the listener. And I think we have a winner today. So today's guest is Sara Verheyen. I'm going to butcher that last name, but that's close enough. She is the owner of Mareish Bookkeeping, a bookkeeping and CFO services agency serving creative entrepreneurs who want to grow their business into a sustainable one that serves their quality of life goals by allowing them to focus on the parts of their business they love rather than the accounting. So I figured with this time of year, we're coming up on tax season, money is always on the mind. How can we make sure we are getting ourselves set up for success when it comes to finances, accounting, and bookkeeping? Because unless that is what your previous job in life was before you started your business, most likely this is not something that you feel like you are super confident or not that you're not capable of, but just it's probably not your favorite thing to do. I know it's not for me. I will say, though, that since using Sara's tools that she talks about in this episode, along with just some kind of consistent routines I've built into my business, the idea of accounting and bookkeeping is not quite so overwhelming as it used to be. And a lot of the tips that Sara is sharing with us today are the things that I have been doing in my business for the last year or so that's allowed me to feel more confident in knowing my numbers and understanding where things in my business are going. So enough of me talking. It's time for our guest to do the talking. All right, guys, I'm here with Sara for round 2 of this episode. We tried recording it a couple weeks ago and technology failed us. So we are back to record it again. Second time's the charm, hopefully. So Sara, welcome to the podcast. Excited to have you here.
Thanks. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. So, okay. Tell us very quickly a little bit about who you are and what you do. And then I'm excited to get into our topic today because I think a lot of people are going to be excited to hear and interested to know like what they can do about their finances. So let's get to it.
Yeah. So I'm Sara. I am an accountant. I've been a CPA for about 10 years, working mostly in tax. And 2 years ago, actually, I started my own business. Just working in public accounting, it's very deadline driven and very stressful at certain times of the year. And after having my 2 kids, there was just kind of a reexamining of what I wanted life to look like and my priorities. And also there's kind of a gap in what I was seeing and how clients were served in big public accounting firms. just with like, just cranking out tax returns and only meeting with the clients, only having the capacity to meet with clients once a year. And then business owners kind of missing that really year-round support and understanding and clarity around their financials. And so I started the business, and it's been wonderful. I'm able to work with creative entrepreneurs, which I love, and really help them embrace the number side of their business rather than just kind of sticking their head in the sand and, avoiding it until tax season. And then it all kind of, blows up a little bit. So
yeah. Well, and I love that you work with creatives, kind of specifically, because coming from the creative industry of photography, like I've noticed, and I've in this way some too, is like we get really focused on, but I'm creating something great. Everything else is kind of the side thing, when really it needs to be a little more balanced than that. And so we do tend to put our head in the sand. And I did that for several years where I was like, well, I'm not really making a ton, so it's not that big of a deal. And then once I was like, no, I really need to get my head around this and I need to understand it. It felt big. It felt scary. It felt overwhelming. It felt embarrassing because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And that's not something I feel comfortable admitting a lot of times. And so that's why I wanted to have you come on and kind of share with us some of the things that we can do, because I feel like I'm not alone in that. And I think you probably have seen a lot of people that come to you that feel the same way. And so I know that anyone listening that feels that same way is kind of like, okay, I know I need to do this. I know I need to be more aware. I need to be more involved. How do I get there without feeling all these other feelings that come with that? So I know we're going to kind of cover like a couple of steps that you take to help people sort of stop avoiding their finances and really take more ownership and control over it. And just to clarify really quickly, so these are things that people can do on their own. Like they don't have to hire someone. Obviously, that is something that you would probably recommend for like the actual working through some of the numbers and things. But this is going to be more about like how to get your mindset in the right space to really be able to take on this part of it that isn't the creative side of business. It's the numbers side. It's the complete opposite of the creative side.
Yes, exactly. And I think what you just described is very common when somebody's starting a new business, when it is very first starting out and there's not a lot of activity, or, maybe even a loss with more expenses going in than income coming in. Like nobody is ready to hire a bookkeeper, and you shouldn't yet, like there is a point where it's too small to do so. And then, things kind of grow and snowball. And next thing you know, you're like, oh my gosh, I have, contractors to support and payroll to run and, all these things and tax returns, but I don't know where to start. And I just want to like normalize that, especially for the creative entrepreneur, is that like, you're not expected to necessarily know all of this because you didn't go to, college for accounting, and I did. Like there are people out there to help you and support you. And so like the biggest thing is, to find somebody who you can ask questions to, who won't like make you feel embarrassed, because that's, not what we're here for. We're here to support you and not judge you.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point. I think people take finances very personally, and it is a very personal thing. But I think of it like coming from like the photography aspect or even the coaching aspect. When someone comes to me needing help with how to grow and market their business, I don't look at them like, how did you not already know how to do this? Duh. Yeah. That's my job. I know it. They don't have to know it. It's my job to help them understand it. But yet when it comes to like asking for help with our finances, for whatever reason, we just get so like squirmy about it. When really like, that's why we have people like you are the expert that it's okay for us. And we're allowed to come to you and be like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like,
yeah.
Help me.
Yeah. You're not behind. You're not the worst it's ever been, you're fine.
And I will say it helps too, that in my mind, when I was first starting out in business, and the idea of like an accountant or a bookkeeper or a tax person, like I pictured sort of an old man behind a big mahogany desk that was just kind of like old school and, looked down at you a little bit. When I meet people like you, and I've met other like women who are in the industry, and I'm like, okay, this is what we need to see more of anyway, is that it's not, nothing wrong with the old men behind the desk, but it's just, I like seeing people that I feel like I can connect to more, that are there to be a little bit more like not grandpa talking down to me about my money and my money choices.
Yes. And also understanding the kind of complexities in the online business space or in photography or whatever your specific industry is, because there is a big difference between, like big corporation versus, a small business, and just the difference in, what you're going to see going on in that business.
Yeah. So let's get into the things. So if someone is listening to this and going, yes, I need to be doing this. I've been burying my head in the sand. I've just kind of been like, okay, there's some money in my account, or I'm spending this, or I don't really have a whole lot of idea of what's coming or going. What are some things that can help us to stop avoiding it and get into the mindset of like, it's okay to start off and start small?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing to know is you're not alone. So just take that and as a piece of comfort, is that you might feel alone because it is finances. And especially when it's a small business, it feels like an extension of your own personal finances because, you're the one making all the decisions. And so I know it can feel very, a little scary, but you're not alone. You're not the only person who's been in this situation. And then next is just to like acknowledge how you're feeling. And so, is it fear? Is it embarrassment? Is it shame? Is it, just like not wanting to sit down and do the tedious task of looking at your numbers because there are more fun things to do? Like, what actually is the feeling that's causing the avoidance? And I think naming it really helps, and just to like sit and journal it out even and write it down and just get everything out of your head onto paper so that you can kind of like clear that. So you have you have space and energy to actually sit down and do it, I think is a big piece.
Yeah. And I know for me, like I was listening to another podcast one time where they were talking about the same topic, and they were talking about kind of similar, like identifying the feelings, but they went even deeper. And they were like, we all have a money story. Like whatever we've brought with us from childhood, like what is your money story? And I didn't realize for so long, like how many different feelings and emotions I attached to money, whether it was like growing up and not having a lot of it, or like little moments where like my mom would say, no, we can't go to McDonald's and get a Happy Meal. We can't afford it this time. Or the time that I lost $50 at the mall that my mom had given me to spend on a swimsuit, and I bawled in the car because my mom was crying. I felt terrible. Or the fact that like I went to a high school where there were very wealthy kids who drove brand new BMWs at 16 and I didn't, like we all come with these stories. And I think it's really important to also like dig into that, and not just what you're feeling at the moment of like, oh, this is embarrassment, this is shame, this is fear, but where does it come from? And like, how can you can't change what your past is, but how can I change the emotions, I guess, that are attached to the money story that you have? Like that's been something that I have worked on a lot that has been huge in helping me to feel less overwhelmed by the feelings that come with looking at those numbers, and they're just numbers. I get that, but like there's feelings attached to that, like you said. And so really working through that is super helpful. I know it has been for me. Like that's my personal experience with that.
Yeah, mine too, exploring the money story. And it's one of those things where it's like, there's so many layers and you think, okay, I've uncovered it. And then you're like, oh no, there's like 50 more layers. Yeah. You just kind of have to keep going and going, and that's life. Right. But
yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Working through those money stories, and also like, if you're used to being in a place of scarcity and that kind of mindset, it's going to take time again to peel that back. And, if you're used to, only having enough in your bank account to cover expenses, you have to go gradually to like saving a little bit more and a little bit more, and like seeing that, padding in your bank account and not, spending it or thinking about where that needs to go, like set aside for taxes or whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've really found that makes all the difference too, is like once you get to the point of having excess money in your bank account, and just having that like kind of mentally earmarked or actually physically earmarked in a separate savings account, really helps to that, getting past that feeling of scarcity.
Yeah. Okay. So number one is to identify the emotions, journal about them, talk about them, like just recognize that they're there and accept them and work on them. So what's the next thing to do?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
If you've been listening to the Girl Means Business podcast for any amount of time, then you know my love of email marketing runs deep. Not only is it a great way to generate new leads, but it's one of the most effective methods for nurturing warm leads and turning them into sales. Now, over the years, I've tested several email platforms, and my favorite by far is Flowdesk. Not only do they make email marketing simple and easy, even for the technically challenged, but they have everything you need to create stunning emails, capture leads, make sales, and automate the entire process, giving you time back in your busy day. And the cherry on top is you're only charged one flat fee no matter how many subscribers you have. So while other platforms will increase your price when you go over your pricing tier limit, Flowdesk has no price increases or hidden fees. If you're ready to give Flowdesk a try, click the link below in the show notes to save 50% off your first year. Let Flowdesk help you design emails people will love. Click the link below and check it out. I have a feeling you're going to love it just as much as I do.
Yeah. And so the next thing to do is, actually, I think number one was that you're not alone. Number two is all the journaling. Yeah,
okay, got it. Yes.
Number three is so like the easy way for me would just say like, okay, the step one is just sit down and do it, right? But that's going to be the last step. So that's number four. So before you do that though, after you've, gotten all the feelings out and, cleared your mind, is before you sit down and do it, remember that the numbers you're going to see on your computer screen are that they're just digits on a computer screen. And money in itself is not good or bad. The numbers that you're seeing are not good or bad. It's the meaning that you attach to them. So just go in with that mindset when you open up your bank account and just tell yourself like, I'm going to see numbers. I can put whatever thoughts and meaning and feeling that I want to on them. And, 100 different business owners could be told, okay, you have, let's say, let's give a number, $10,000 in your bank account. How do you feel? Half could say, oh, I feel fantastic. Half could say, oh my gosh, is that all? You know what I mean? So like, we're all going to have different meanings and feelings around the numbers anyway. So just keep that in mind before step number 4 is when you sit down and do it.
Yeah. No, I love that example that, there is no, like everybody's going to feel differently about the same number, and I think about this with social media, like we attach so much to our social media vanity metrics, the followers, the likes, the comments, all those things. But again, like 30 likes to me might mean something different than 30 likes to someone else, or 1,000 followers might mean something different to each person. The same thing, like we have to separate ourselves from those numbers because they don't define who we are, or how successful we are. And that's really hard, especially when you're doing this on your own. It's your business. It's you. Like everyone keeps telling you, like, you are your brand, you are your business. But then we're like, but then you have to separate yourself from these parts of your business. You're like, well, wait a minute. Everyone else is telling me that that it's me. I'm connected to it. But then they're telling me I have to disconnect from these other things. So the mixed messaging is hard to get through, but I understand that like, it's just numbers on a screen. And you ultimately, when you run your own business, you can control those numbers to some degree. And that should feel, in my opinion, powerful.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I was going to say something else, but it just flew out of my mind. So if you have anything else on that.
Yeah, no, I think that's just in general, I think we need to learn how to separate ourselves a little bit, like maybe not ourselves, separate our emotions from, like, we've identified the emotions. Now let's like detach them from these numbers on the screen.
Yes, absolutely.
And then number 4 is just to sit down and do it, right?
Yes. Okay. Oh, thank you. That was it. I remember what I was going to add on to that. So yeah, and just acknowledging, and I know even after these first 3 steps, it can still be like, well, I'll just do something else. I don't really feel like it, right? Because it might not be, the most fun thing you have on your plate today, but to recognize that the stress of not doing it is invisible, but it's there. And the longer you put it off, kind of like the more it can stress you out, and to just like think about how good you're going to feel after it's done. And also that you'd have a plan. Like if the numbers are not what you want to see, now you know. And maybe there's a reason that you're feeling that way. Like maybe something about your business is unaligned, and looking at your numbers might actually help click that into place.
Yeah. No, so again, because this is round 2 of us having this conversation, I've had this on my mind for a little while. And after we talked the last time, I was online and someone had posted about how much money they made in the last year. And she was like, my goal next year is to double this income. And we have messages back and forth in the DMs a couple times. So I sent her messages like, hey, congratulations. That's amazing. So excited for you. And I was like, I would love to know like what your market, like what's your plan for doubling that this next year. She's like, well, I'm not really sure yet. I'm still working on that. And I was like, it's almost March. Like we're almost a quarter of the way through the year. Like, what do you mean you don't have a plan? And to me, like, and I think this is where my more analytical brain is good at for this. Like I have the creative side, but I also have the analytical side that work well together, is that I have that ability to go, if I don't have a plan, it's not magically going to happen. I can't just like manifest it. I mean, I do believe in that a little bit, but there has to be action behind it too.
It has to be both. Yeah.
And so part of that for me is that, like you were saying, every month I sit down and I break down my spending and my income for the month. And I have a spreadsheet that I use, and I go in and I say, okay, this is how much I made. This is where the money came out. This is what my, like profit was for the month. And I can track that, which is really exciting for me. And it's not fun. I don't enjoy it. I have to put it on my calendar every month. I have to make myself do it. Like at the time we're recording this, it's March 2nd. Today or tomorrow, by tomorrow afternoon, I have to have my February one done. That's my goal. It's on my calendar. Is it the first thing I want to do? Absolutely not. But like you said, when you're done, it's kind of like going to the gym to work out. Like you don't want to go, but think of how good it's going to feel once you've done it. I know that once I have that information in there, and I now have 2 months I can track for the year and go, okay, from January to February, let me look at some trends. Okay, I'm probably spending too much on X, Y, or Z. Like, let me see how I can adjust that going forward. Or, oh, wow, like I really cut back on this area, or whatever it might be. It does feel really good. It's just not something we all think about like, ooh, I can't wait to do that today.
Yeah. You know what? It's the same for bookkeepers. I have had to force myself to do my own bookkeeping before my clients, because it's that kind of thing. Like it takes a long time. It's tedious. But once you have it done, you're able to look at that data, that information, and not only compare it to your goals, and then like what I find the most fun is to, tweak your next month goals and to actually sit down and plan out your money for the month and where is it going to go? How much are you expecting to bring in? How much is expected to go out? What are some big things you want to save up for? Like, a retreat or a trip or vacation, a big investment into a coach or mastermind. Like that's the stuff that, when you're able to sit down and make a plan for it is very rewarding.
Yeah, no, I agree. And yeah, because for so long, I was one of those people that was just like, okay, I'm going to like check my bank account, like peeking through one eye. Okay, we're good. Keep going. Like, but I am someone I've learned, and this has been part of my journey of like learning more about who I am and how I work and all the things, is like, I really do feel better once I feel like I'm in control of it, and ignoring it, or just kind of, like I said, peeking at it every once in a while to make sure I wasn't like overdrawn in my account. Like that wasn't making me, it was actually causing more anxiety for me. And so when I do sit down, it's almost like, okay, this is going to help me be less anxious the next month, because I know where I'm starting from and I can see the progress I'm making. And yeah, it's not perfect. There are months where I'm like, ooh, I probably didn't need to spend that much this month, but like, it's okay. Whatever, I maybe splurged on a program I really wanted to try, or a course I really wanted to take. But, it still is good to recognize those things and to bring that like, not the confidence, wasn't like that control back a little bit. And I think that that's one of those fears too. And this is a question I have for you. When someone is looking to hire like a bookkeeper or an accountant, for someone who is like, but I don't want to relinquish control, and I don't want someone telling me how I should spend my money or what I should do with my money, what do you say to somebody who's like, that's a fear that I have, is I don't want someone feeling like they have control over my finances instead of me?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey, photographers, are you ready to make 2024 your best year yet? Growing a business is tough. You're following all the successful photographers and experts, soaking up their best advice and downloading all their free guides, trying to replicate their success only to come up lacking, blaming yourself when their methods don't work for you. But the truth is, it isn't you. Free content and one-size-fits-all courses can only get you so far. What you need is personalized help and guidance. But that can get expensive. Well, not anymore. I've created the perfect solution to get you personalized results for less than $2 a day. Introducing the Focus Photographer Lab, a one-of-a-kind coaching membership that gets you one-on-one results for a fraction of the cost of traditional coaching. Inside the lab, you'll find the 3 C's to success: classes, coaching, and community. With classes, you gain access to a treasure trove of pre-recorded trainings and invaluable resources. With coaching, you get monthly live trainings and Q&A sessions, along with my favorite part, the weekly one-on-one office hours, where we get to address your unique questions and challenges. And then there's the community, where you get to connect with an amazing group of talented female photographers who share your passion, supporting each other and inspiring each other to greatness. The best part is it doesn't come with an expensive one-on-one coaching price tag. You get all of that for just $47 a month. You can even try it for free for 14 days to make sure it's a good fit for you. And there is no contract and no obligation. You can cancel at any time. So what are you waiting for? Head down to the show notes and click the link to learn more and get signed up today. And let's make 2024 our best year yet.
Yeah, I actually really love this question. And I did a whole podcast episode on it on mine too. So I love talking about it. Is the fear that hiring somebody out, like there is value in sitting down and looking at every single transaction and having that very intimate knowledge of your numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, hiring that out, will that lead to me having less control? And how I answer that question is, here are the things I would ask as an accountant if for some wild reason I was wanting to outsource my bookkeeping, right?
Okay.
This is what I would ask is, I would ask for, of course, like the standard financial reports, your profit and loss statement, your balance sheet, and then also a general ledger report, a detail report. And then I would go through every single month and just scan through, and you can get a lot of, really good insight just by going through the different categories and seeing what's in there. And, especially like it'll come more natural to you as you continue doing this, but things will start to pop out and you'll think, oh my gosh, like, I don't know, I'm thinking of a software, Canva. I use Canva, but if I didn't, I was like, oh, I haven't used Canva in 6 months. Why am I paying for this kind of thing? Or, you might even see like something in there twice and you didn't realize you were paying for it twice for whatever reason.
Yep, that's happened to me.
Yeah. So those are a couple of the things that I would say, that I guess my advice comes down to, if you're going to hire it out, yes, it's getting off your plate, but it's the tedious portion that's getting off your plate. You still want to, be in there, and hopefully your bookkeeper, you'd want to make sure to ask the question of like, what reports am I getting? How often am I getting them? And then make sure that you're getting at least something monthly. And then like, once you see that email coming in or that report coming in, say, okay, this is my time to sit down and make sure that I'm still, very familiar with what's going on in my business. And that I'm not just like, oh, it's off my plate, so I don't have to worry about it. Like, yes, but also make sure that you're still in tune with what's going on.
Yeah. So as a bookkeeper though, like you're not coming in and saying like, I think you need to spend less in this area, or I think you need to invest more. Like you offer advice, but you're not judging people, I guess was what I should say, on their spending habits or okay. Cause I think that is a genuine fear, is that they're like, well, are they going to judge me because I, spend on this, or I have decided to enroll in this and now it's this monthly payment for like, I think we all have that fear of, well, is someone else going to look at me and think like, oh, why are they doing that? And that's not what you do, obviously, but that is a fear I think that we all have.
Yeah. And I've had a few CFO clients too, which is where we do most of our, advisory kind of stuff. And, it's still, we trust the business owner to run their own business. We're there to show the data and the numbers and say, look, here's where you ended up this month. This is where it is compared to your goals. But at all times, it's the business owner who is creating their vision, right? And we don't know what that is necessarily. Like, you can communicate it to an extent, but nobody truly knows except for the business owner, right?
Yeah.
And so, we'll present the data and then they can do with that and, run with that to where they're wanting to go.
Yeah. So really quickly before we wrap up, I want to touch on two more things. One is programs. Like I know that for me, I was using QuickBooks self-employed for a long time. I still have it and I still like run all my stuff through there, but I moved over to just doing it by hand on a spreadsheet because I found that QuickBooks sometimes would like double entry things and I would have like overlap on things. And so are there programs you recommend? Do you say like, is it better to do it on a spreadsheet? Like, if someone's like, I can't afford a bookkeeper, I'm not at that point in my business yet, but what's the best way for me to do this on my own?
Yeah, as long as it's a single member LLC, so not a partnership with multiple partners, not an S corporation, single member LLC, I think spreadsheet is absolutely the way to go. QuickBooks or any accounting software, there's always going to be a learning curve. And there's also, things going on behind the scenes that you might not catch, like you said, duplicated transactions. When we onboard a new client and either like they've been doing their own, I much prefer a spreadsheet. It's so much faster than cleaning up a QuickBooks file for somebody who doesn't know, accounting, which is fine. Yeah. So definitely spreadsheet's the way to go. And it can be as simple or as complex as you want. I have one in my shop, which I'll give you a discount code for your audience. But really what you need to be tracking is your income, money that's coming in, expenses, money that's going out. Take the difference between those two for your profit. And then, sorry, allergies are just crazy too. And then of course, you can look at other things like your profit margin, which is taking your profit divided by your revenue. And that's a cool metric to track over time because it's telling you how much of every dollar of revenue that's coming in the door, how much of that you're keeping as profit. So if you have a 50% profit margin, it's saying you're keeping 50 cents of every dollar that's coming in. So that's kind of a cool spin on the data to keep an eye on. And then, tracking profit over time through the quarters and the year. And really that's all you need.
Yeah, I hadn't. So I mainly do like income and then I have my categories of spending that I kind of put everything into each month. And then of course profit, but I like the idea of the, what is it called again? The
profit margin percentage.
Profit margin percentage. I think that's really cool because that helps you really look at like, okay, if I am pricing my program or my service at this amount, how much of that is actually going to come back in my pocket? Because especially with creative business owners, the idea of how much do I price my products or services for is a huge question that everyone has. And there's no real framework for that necessarily, other than like know your cost of doing business. But having that percentage, that profit margin percentage, I think that's really, really helpful. So I will definitely link to your coupon code in your shop down in the show notes if anyone wants to go and grab that, because I think that could be a really incredible way for people to start without having to go into like a spreadsheet, just staring at blank boxes and go, how do I do this?
Yes, exactly.
Because I'm not a spreadsheet person. I'm learning to become one, but even like understanding like all of the equations and things that go into like, how do I get these numbers to automatically give me this number? Like,
right.
It's like being back in like a high school math class. I'm just like, no.
Yeah, it's great. It has a video walking you through how to get started in it. And you can customize your chart of accounts, which basically just means your expense categories. So, they're customized to your business, and it gives you those metrics like your profit margin percentage. It highlights your highest income and your highest expenses for the month. So those are always good to look at. And it also gives you an estimated amount to set aside for taxes every month. So it's that nice reminder, because it can be very easy to get started going in your business and then tax season rolls around and you're like, oops, I was supposed to set aside how much?
Yep. I know.
Paying how much?
Yep, exactly. Well, I'm gonna have to go check that out because like I said, I've just been doing it on my own, but now I'm like, oh, I really want to add in a few more. Now that I'm comfortable with the process I have and the system I have in place, I'm like, okay, now it's time to expand and add on these other metrics that I want to kind of track and have that information for. So I'm definitely gonna go grab that. Last question. When it comes to keeping track of your finances, do you recommend any certain, like, should you be doing this monthly, quarterly, weekly? Like, what works best in your opinion?
Yeah. So definitely monthly at a minimum, I would say. And this is another thing too, to avoid the overwhelm next month after you've gone through those 4 steps, is make a little money date for yourself and put it on your calendar every single month, block out, let's say 2 hours a month, to really like sit there and do all of your bookkeeping. But I really recommend a weekly money routine of some sort, whether it's doing your bookkeeping or just kind of sitting down and checking out like all of your bank accounts and making sure everything looks good there. But also I want to put in a caveat that like your bank account is not your budget. The money that you see in your checking account obviously isn't like, oh, that's how much I can spend, right?
Yeah.
And so keeping track of the different things that are about to be due, of course. And Profit First is a great method for that too. That book is a really great resource to just kind of, again, work on the mindset around money and how to manage it all as a business owner.
Yeah. I will say one thing I've started doing this year that has been really helpful for me is in that spreadsheet, because I do mine monthly. Weekly sounds just like a lot for me. And I know that I should probably get to that at some point, or even like bi-weekly. But right now, like the monthly works for me. And I do the same thing. I set the little date on my calendar. Like I said, it's usually by the 3rd of every month. I like to have the last month's one kind of in the books. But one of the things that I've started doing is in that same spreadsheet is I kind of list out all of my monthly like payments. So things that are, okay, well, I have to pay for my client management system every month and it comes out on the 3rd. Or, I have to pay for Canva and it comes out on this date, or it's due on this date, or whatever it might be. And I add those into my calendar, and it makes my calendar look a little bit busy because there's lots of things in there, but it helps me visually. And they're all color codes. Like I know if it's something that's, a payment that's being made, it's a certain color. So I'm not like, oh, I have an appointment at that time. But it helps me to visually see like if everything's coming out at the same like week of the month, then I need to make sure that I have everything in the funds for that at that time. And I'm not overspending, like you said, like looking at my bank account midway through the month and going like, oh, I'm doing great. And then the first of the month rolls around and I'm like, well, crap. So for me, that's because, especially because everything now is digital, everything is like automatically drawn out of your account. And unless you're like me and had to go in manually and fix it because I got a new debit card, which is so frustrating when you like everything's on auto pay and all of a sudden you're like, oh, we're sending you a new debit card because your card's been whatever, and I'm like, oh gosh. So I have to go back in and redo everything. But I forget about it. I'm just like, I'll wake up one day and be like, oh, well, wait. What's all these things that came out of my account in the last 3 days? Oh yeah. I had to pay for my email system. I had to pay for, my client management system. I had to pay for Canva. I had to pay for Zoom. I had to pay for all these things. And we forget about it. So for me, having a visual reminder of that's been really helpful too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what you're doing is cash flow forecasting. And I love that
Ooh.
you use a calendar. Yeah. It sounds so fancy, right? But that's all it is.
I love it.
Yeah. So
it's like a money meteorologist.
Right. That's right. Looking at the weather forecast, your sales forecast, right?
Yeah.
No. So bookkeeping is always looking backwards, right? It's recording what's already happened. And that's kind of only half of your money picture, right? You also need to look forward and, make a plan for your money, make sure the cash is there, all of that. So that's what you're doing in your system too. And I have 2 different templates in my website. So in case you're wondering which one is which, that's what that is. But yeah, cash flow forecasting really helps you, again, plan out for the future. And another thing I will say too is on my template, I have a figure that calculates like what I call your cash buffer. And that's, keeping at least what's recommended is like 3 to 6 months of operating expenses in your bank account. So number one, you don't have to look quite as closely to like, how much cash is in there, that you have a buffer, but also it tells you like if for whatever reason, whatever happens in the universe, if sales were about to stop tomorrow, this is how many months my business could continue. So that's another metric to watch too, is the amount that's in your bank account and how many months of operating expenses that is.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, this has been so helpful, Sarah. Thank you so much for coming back and recording this again with me. I really do feel like the second time around we kind of already knew what we were going to talk about. So we got to just dive in a little bit deeper and it was really awesome. So thank you so much for doing this, and tell people where they can find you if they want to learn more about you or go to your shop or even maybe work with you.
Yeah, of course. So I'm on Instagram mostly at Mareish Bookkeeping. My website is mareishbooks.com. And I also have a podcast called the Profits Affogato Podcast, which is on pause indefinitely, but there are about 30 really great episodes for business owners to look at, all about like, what you need to know about sales tax or what a good profit margin is, just random things like that could be helpful as you're growing your business. So, and yeah, I think that's it.
Awesome. Well, and I'll have all that linked down in the show notes. And I know you mentioned you have that 20% off code, so I'll make sure I include that as well. Go and grab those templates for the bookkeeping. I think that the spreadsheets, that'll help everybody a ton. I know I'm excited to go check it out. So thank you again for being here, and we'll chat soon.
Thank you so much for having me.